Our first speaker for this morning, Manjir Samanta-Laughton. Dr. Samanta-Laughton was a general practitioner and a bioenergy therapist before she turned her full energy into examining links between cutting-edge science and spirituality. She is an award-winning international speaker and author with 2 best-selling books, Punk Science and A Genius Grove, translated into several languages. She has over 10 years of experience as a speaker around the world, many, many countries here, which I won't go into. And she's been extensively interviewed by the media, including BBC and others. We're really honored to have Manjir here. So without any further ado, please join me in welcoming Manjir to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you, and thanks for the welcome all the way from England. And happy anniversary, IONS. I'll let you into a secret. It's actually my 40th birthday this year, later this year as well. So we'll be celebrating together. So we're going to go this morning into the black hole principle towards unity consciousness. Does that sound good? Okay, and it's all about punk science, so get ready for it. Okay, so we've been talking yesterday, we started talking a little about how to bring everything together. We want unity consciousness, something that describes the atom from consciousness to black holes to DNA to the Earth's weather patterns. Is there something that can bring everything together? And I'm going to try and do it in 40 minutes. So let's just see how we go. Okay, so there's been many attempts for a unity theory, from Faraday with electromagnetism and Einstein and string theory. And, you know, we're trying to put all these pieces together. Is there something that we can do that also can bring together consciousness? So the first time when we had quantum theory, we actually introduced this concept of wave-particle duality, where reality changed according to how we measured it. And that led some people, such as Amit Goswami, who's been associated with IONS for a long time, I know, to actually talk about the brain consciousness paradox. And people like Goswami solved it by saying, people like Goswami solved it by saying consciousness is fundamental to reality. So everything comes out of consciousness. So that's the basis of what we're going to be talking about today. So the black hole principle, I'm going to be explaining what it is, why it's unifying all the forces with consciousness. We're going to go beyond the speed of light, talk about the evidence for the principle, and we're going to make some predictions. And hopefully by the end of this time, you'll be able to make predictions yourself. I've also got some new ideas, which I've been presenting for the first time, both in the workshop yesterday and today. So this is a world exclusive for IONS. Okay, so the way that we're told happened, the universe came about, is something known as the Big Bang, where something, we don't know what, exploded and spread out, and 15 billion years later, here we are. So this is what the cosmologists call the standard model. So the cosmologists say, look, we know what the universe is made of. Here it is. This is known as the standard model of cosmology. And when you look at it, you've got, well, 73% is dark energy. And what is dark energy? Well, it's called that because we don't know what it is. 23% is dark matter. And what is that? Well, we don't know either. And so there's 3.6% is this intergalactic gases. And there's everything that we see around us, all the stars, everything, even human beings, are this 0.4% stars, etc. Okay, so it's pretty safe to say that we really don't know what the universe consists of. But it doesn't seem to bother the cosmologists all the time too much. So it's no wonder that people are starting to question. And this is a mainstream scientist from Oxford who's actually questioning it.
I think we're at an interesting time where we're up against how perfect a model it might be. Maybe the standard model is wrong and we have to come up with a better model.
So that's an Oxford physicist. Okay, so just to let you know, I'm not making all this up. You know, this is actually going on in academia as well. So one of the problems that we have with the standard model is something, for example, something called the horizon problem. And that is, can you imagine if something banged? You know, at the Big Bang, if the Big Bang universe happened, you've got the Big Bang creating the universe in the first moments. And then in a very few moments after that, you've got light being created, yeah? Does that make sense? Because light can't, you know, according to the Big Bang model, can't happen before the universe is created. So light spreads out, and if you can imagine the universe is spreading out, and light is kind of following it. Yeah, does that make sense? Yeah, okay. So that's called a horizon, but the bits that the light didn't reach, that actually expanded before light was created, those bits are going to be different. Yeah, does that make sense? And 15 billion years later, we should actually see those differences. Yeah, there should be tiny fluctuations everywhere in the bits where the light reached and the bits where the light didn't reach. That's known as a horizon problem because the universe looks all the same, no matter where you look. And so somebody actually tried to solve this. A group of physicists tried to solve this. These are mainstream physicists, you know. And so this is an academic called Joan McGager who's brought out a book called Faster Than the Speed of Light. Highly recommend it. And he coined a theory called VSL, Varying Speed of Light Theory. And so in his mind, the speed of light is actually that could actually vary in the early universe, and that's what he put about. That would solve the horizon problem. However, this is a mainstream academic. He actually went further. He actually said that what if light is infinite? And actually what happens is it's curled up in higher dimensions. Yeah? So we have actually infinite light expressing itself in different dimensions. So we see, if you see the first arrow, we see that light goes at a certain speed when actually it's curled up in higher dimensions. So this is mainstream academia bringing out very interesting ideas. So I realized that, well, if consciousness is fundamental, and the speed of light is actually infinite, expressing itself at different levels, then maybe that's where all the missing dark matter and dark energy is. Yeah? So what is the speed of light? Well, I've redefined the speed of light as not the speed limit of our universe, but the limitation of our normal perceptions of this dimension. Yeah? So actually, when it comes to the speed of light, everything in this, what we call the physical 3D universe, references itself to that speed. But it's not really a speed at all. Photons don't have space and time. You know, how is this photon going at the speed of light? You know, it's actually a vibration. It's a vibration of perception. It's a vibration of consciousness. And so we are referencing a particular vibration of consciousness, but there's more beyond that. But nothing with mass can go further than that vibration of consciousness. So I redefine the speed of light as the perception horizon. Okay, is everybody happy? So there's beyond the perception horizon, and we are in the 3D, what we call the 3D world below the perception horizon. So bear that in mind. So what all this dark matter and dark energy, I'm saying it's actually beyond this perception horizon. It's actually been there all along. It's just not physical. So we can't measure it. Yeah? So it's actually been there all along, and it's actually super bright. So what's one of the darkest things in the universe? Anybody guess? Black holes. Okay, so this is our regular picture of black holes. There's these great guzzling monsters that suck everything in that comes nearby. Okay, and for a long time, this is our picture. And this is, black holes were a theoretical object for many, many years, and we didn't actually know if they really existed. But it's a few years ago, we started to send out telescopes into space, and we actually found that black holes are everywhere. Oh, it has sound. Well, that's him telling you black holes are everywhere, but it don't seem to have the sound. So they found them in the center of all of the galaxies. Oh well. If we can have the sound for the next few slides, that'd be great. Okay, so Anyway, they found black holes at the center of all of the galaxies, and when they did, they were in for a few surprises. Because instead of everything coming, sucking into black holes, what they discovered, what the evidence showed, did not fit the theory. And what they found was that electrons were coming out of black holes at nearly the speed of light. The antimatter component of electrons, called positrons, were also coming out of black holes. And sometimes there are these things called gamma rays. That's where you have the positron and electron combine, they produce gamma rays. Okay, so what's going on? Because aren't black holes supposed to suck everything? And the mainstream scientists will say, well, it's because everything's going down the black hole and it speeds up and then it spits out this material. But if you can see, we see these in these two jets, okay, which are perpendicular to the what's known as the accretion disk. So it doesn't really fit that it's coming from everything going down the black hole because it's being spat out in these two jets. And the actual angular momentum of the technical stuff of that is actually quite difficult to do. So it doesn't really make sense, but still their mindset doesn't go, well, maybe we've got the theories wrong. Okay, so I actually realised that we've got it completely backward. And in an absolute flash of insight, put a very simple diagram here so that you can understand this. And I realised that actually black holes are the creative source of the universe. That you actually have infinite light at the centre, it spirals through the dimensions, hits the edge of our reality, which I'm calling the perception horizon at the speed of light, and that's when it splits into two, the electron and the positron, the matter and the antimatter. That's why we see electrons coming out of black holes at the speed of light, because it's only just hit our dimension. We see them coming out of nowhere, and we think because we can't see what's beyond the perception horizon. It's dark, it's black to us. So it's light that's only just slowed down to our dimension, and that's where it splits. So I'll just go through that again. So the black hole principle is light from the center of the black hole, spirals through the dimensions. So it actually then hits our edge of our reality, and then that's the sort of veils. People talk about the veils of reality. And that's at the perception horizon, what we formerly call the speed of light, but we now know light is infinite. So it's the photon splits into two, the matter and the antimatter. And what we see is a stream of electrons coming out of black holes just below the speed of light. Yeah, and the electrons go on to make all the matter. They create us. They create the material in our world. Yeah. So that's the black hole principle in a nutshell, the new theory. Where's the evidence? Well, these are actually actual pictures of galaxies. And as you can see, these bipolar jets are very, very apparent. It doesn't look like everything's being sucked in. It looks as if it's coming out, yeah? So you can see these telltale bipolar jets coming out of galaxies and at all levels of the universe, actually. So we also see these gamma ray bursts all over the skies. And people have been wondering where these gamma ray bursts come from. Because the other thing that happens is it breathes the other way. Not only do the matter and antimatter get created, it's the positron and electron combine again to produce the gamma ray. And that's why we see the gamma rays coming all over the sky, because they're actually from the black hole breathing process. It goes one way, it produces matter and antimatter. It goes the other way, it produces gamma ray bursts. It's kind of like the flow of the Tao. And just to put a technical diagram up here, the mainstream scientists think that gamma ray bursts come from explosions. But explosions actually have a peak and then they die away. That's not what we see in our telescopes. We actually see these oscillating patterns because it's a breathing process. It's not an explosion. So the mainstream scientists can't understand this. So they keep saying things like, well, black holes must be burping on their food. And I kid you not, go Google black holes burping and you'll find it. They don't understand the paradigm. So we're moving to something that actually fits the data, the theory that not only fits the data, it makes predictions. So this is one of the predictions that I made. The first paper I did was in 2003. The book came out in 2006, and it said that obviously you'd expect to see gamma ray bursts around galaxies. This is our own Milky Way galaxy. And quite recently, it was discovered that there were these gigantic gamma ray bubbles coming out of the galaxy. And can you see the bipolar jets? So what you've got is bipolar jets spiraling of gamma ray bursts, coming out of our own galaxy. This is flummoxing the cosmologists. They don't know what's going on, but if you know the pattern, you know what to look for. Because this black hole principle is going at every single level of reality. From the very, very large to the very small. I'm going to run through this really quickly, and I'm going to give you some things to look for. So sort of things we want to look for is concentrated bipolar jets, phi ratio geometry, fluctuating emissions. We want to see antimatter, matter, gamma ray bursts. So that's the sort of thing. And I've got a surprise for you, the big announcement at the end. So this is a bipolar jet coming out of a star. Not just galaxies, a star. And we see these around stars, planets. They don't know what's going on because they don't know the underlying theory. They don't know the underlying pattern. So for them, it's disparate bits of information that they can't piece together. So once you know how to unify this, you know what to look for. So speaking of stars, this is a star that's most familiar to us, and this is our own sun. Our own sun, a black hole, really? Well, it gives out ejections, periodic ejections. It gives out matter, and antimatter and X-rays and gamma ray bursts. And just recently, this is how recently it is. Can you see that? July the 9th, 2013, solar flares fire off antimatter particles. So antimatter particles being just discovered for the first time, just published last week. So all the predictions that you'd expect are actually coming true. We actually see these flares coming off. This is actually Venus that is giving off a flare. So they don't understand why Venus is doing this. So they call it a lens artifact. They're saying it's not really there. And Jupiter is giving off these flares. Do you remember last year? Jupiter lost the stripe. It's these fluctuating patterns. Nobody knew where the stripe went. But and then it reappeared again. So Jupiter is known to, just have a look. Its scientists are baffled as to what gives Jupiter its energy. But when you know everything's doing the same pattern from infinite light, and it's creation from infinite light, you've got infinity there. You don't need to puzzle where the energy is coming from. It's from beyond our normal perception. We are only looking at a small part of the universe, and here is the evidence. Okay, so would you believe it? Comets as well, those snowballs that we think are just like, quite simple objects, they also have concentrated jets. What a big surprise. So what about closer to home? Well, we're getting even closer to home here, and the moon has surprised everybody because even the moon is giving off periodic ejections. It's not just because of the reflection of the sun. People have actually studied it and realized that there is really that these lunar eruptions actually do exist. So, are we living on a black hole? Is Manjir crazy? So, could the Earth be showing the same sort of signs? Well, very surprisingly, just look at our weather patterns. We've got so much evidence. Now, this is one of the major pieces of evidence and major analogies to the black hole principle. We have this all the time, lightning. It's fast-moving electrons. And so lightning, we're all told, is a discharge that builds up in clouds, yeah? And when there's so much static electricity, it builds up and discharges to the planet. And that's how we get lightning. Well, the measurements have been done. Another case where the theory and the evidence do not match up, but they don't discard the theory. Never mind the evidence. So what happens is, so people have measured it, does not match up. Recently, because we have satellite images that go above the clouds, we know that there's new types of lightning that have been discovered. And the other incredible thing is these things called terrestrial gamma ray flashes have been discovered in the Earth's upper atmosphere. And what do we see there? They happen in thunderstorms. They go at the speed of light. They radiate at the speed of light. They discharge these electrons. Very, very interesting. So the same power of gamma ray flashes out in space are happening in the Earth's atmosphere. This is black hole pattern on black hole pattern. Everything is created black holes in a fractal pattern. So, if I'm correct, what would we expect to find? Some of those predictions that we're talking about. NASA sent up probes to look at terrestrial gamma ray flashes. You can see the date on there, 1st, 10th, 11th, NASA's Fermi captures thunderstorms hurling antimatter into space. A good theory makes predictions that come true. Okay? So a bad theory is backpedaling. And the irony is, we know in detail how black holes work at the center of distant galaxies, but we don't understand what's going on inside thunderclouds. They're the same thing. Okay? So the same process, but they just haven't pieced it together yet. Okay, and we don't really know what goes on in the Earth's interior. We put about this story that there's a load of molten lava, when the actual measurements show us that we're actually getting antimatter from the Earth's center. Okay, the Earth itself is a creative black hole. And the Earth erupts sometimes, as we know, periodic eruptions, and look what we have here. Fast-moving electrons within those volcano eruptions, lightning. So, and can you see the spiral plumes? You know, they're not random plumes, they're actually spirals. So a prediction I'm making today is we should be able to see antimatter coming from volcanoes. So that's something that we need to look for in the future. So it goes all the way down, and you know, I could go into so much detail. But when you look at what happens in radioactive decay at the atomic level, you have the gamma rays, you have the electrons, and there are analogies to the alpha particles as well, which I would go into if we had more time. But and also, if you think about the atom, what do you have? You've got electrons and positrons jumping. Dirac's theory. You've got electrons and positrons jumping, producing light at times. So you've got that breathing process. We can now look at quantum leaps and see it's black hole breathing. Okay, we're going to reframe things in a different way. What about chakras? The vortices of the body, these spinning vortices that have been seen by mystics throughout the ages. You know, we can see this in a new light now. Perhaps these are the black holes, but the tradition is that chakras are spinning vortices, they create the body. You know, and you can actually pick up small electrical fields around the chakra points. Valerie Hunt, UCLA, has done this. So DNA, people like Greg Braden have been talking about the light coming off of DNA, and it actually unwinds and winds according to the emotions of the person. So when you understand about consciousness being fundamental, you understand why we can't see things beyond the perception horizon, and because it's all to do with consciousness, levels of consciousness. And, you know, it's part of the backbone of what we have. Now, I'm going to go into the new announcement. As I said, this is very, very new. This is all about water. Okay, so what black hole's got to do with water? What is she on about now? Okay, so it's like, how did we let this person in from England? If we go back to the concept of thunderstorms, what happens in thunderstorms? You have the gamma ray flashes. We now see we have the antimatter. We now see we have the electrons. It's called lightning. What else do we have? We have rain. Okay, and when I first came out with this theory, I was like, there must be something to do with rain production of black holes. It sounds mad, but there must be something to do with rain production because it happens in thunderstorms too. And if thunderstorms, if terrestrial gamma ray flashes are mini black holes happening in the Earth's upper atmosphere, then the rain must be something to do with the black hole process. I didn't publish it because I didn't have the evidence. until now. So just this slide is showing the other thing. I'm not a meteorologist. I can't even say the word, but I mean, So people who study the weather, if you look at this, this is a quote from New Scientist, again mainstream. The mechanisms of cloud formation are, they say, well understood, but no one knows for sure what makes clouds rain. We have models, but we don't have proof. So this is something that, so it is a mystery as to what forms rain. So if I'm correct, and the water is coming through the dimensions from the black hole itself in the Earth's upper atmosphere, then we should see it at every level of reality when it comes to black hole principle. And that's what we do see. Recently, we found that black holes spew water vapor. So the same process that is going on in the Earth's upper atmosphere producing our rain is going out in space. Black holes are producing jets of water, and nobody knows why. It makes no sense from their theories. So this is like amazing evidence that everything is starting to pull together. Yeah, pretty surprising if you look at that. So it's very concentrated jets, and it's right around space, within our galaxy and within deep out in space as well. So it's all around our galaxy. So this is known as a maser, the bottom one, and so my laser isn't showing up, but this is known as a maser. So we're seeing these spewing out of water vapor at all levels of reality, all around the galaxies. And water is being found on moons everywhere. So moons are up too. And Jupiter's moons, Saturn's moons, and we're also finding it on our own moon. We didn't used to think that water existed on our own moon. And now we've discovered it. Because the water in the black hole principle is, I haven't got the full process about this yet. This is brand new. But it's likely that when the process of the black hole, the light comes to the edge of our reality and splits into the matter and antimatter, water comes out of the center. So that is my hypothesis, and this is actually what some evidence towards this. This is a comet, the comet Halley. To their utter surprise, this is giving off jets of water vapor, very specifically from the center. So all of creation is this black hole creative process. That's light's coming in from the higher dimensions, and when it splits, I believe that water's coming off the center, and this is exactly what we're seeing in this situation. And this is why we've got water. It's so fundamental to reality, to our bodies, everything. And we see this we're going back to the planet and earthquakes. In earthquakes, we see water liquefaction just coming out of the ground. So an earthquake also is a black hole ejection from the center of the planet. And when that happens, sometimes it produces water. Anybody get stuck in the ash cloud like I did a few years ago, the Iceland ash cloud? It wasn't ash. Iceland does not have trees. That cloud was mainly water vapor. It's not like the ash that's going outside here. It's water vapor. So the most common volcanic gas is actually water vapor, as you see in that quote down there. It's not ash. How did water get to the planet? We've now got a new insight on how that could be, because it's actually a big mystery. People think it was seeded here by comets, but there's recent, sort of ideas that, comets and asteroids, they probably didn't carry enough water here. How did we get these oceans? It's coming out of the central black hole of the Earth, okay, according to this theory. So when you piece everything together. So if we look at the big picture then, we've got this idea that, as I said at the beginning, that the universe began in a big bang and that creation is over with. No, creation is happening at every single moment, at every single level. And the data supports that idea. It does not support Big Bang. When the WMAP data, the anisotropy microwave data, which was supposed to be the evidence of Big Bang, was analysed, people were in for a shock. Because instead of everything being about 15 billion years ago and the echo of the Big Bang, it was showing alignments with current structures. Have we got the sound on the laptop now? I'm just going to show another video.
According to the Big Bang theory, there should be no pattern to the distribution of different temperatures across the sky. But I found that there did seem to be some order to the arrangement of these fluctuations. The pattern is so subtle, it only emerges when the complicated WMAP picture is broken down into a series of more simple temperature maps. The Big Bang theory predicts that the universe is the same everywhere, and the arrangement of the different components should be completely random. But it isn't. Some of the temperature maps turn out to have features in common. They align along one special direction, which I dubbed the axis of evil. I called it the axis of evil because it implies there is a flaw in the Big Bang theory. Some people thought I was seeing things that weren't there. But complex statistical analysis proves that these alignments aren't just due to chance. The axis of evil really is present in the data.
So that was our friend Jerome Gage, again, a mainstream academic in London. You know, he is a jobbing physicist, as it were. So, you know, there were people who, they went out looking for the evidence of the Big Bang, and the evidence they found is forcing them to actually rethink their theories. But the trouble is they're so attached to their theories and what that means for them and the funding they get for it, that it is quite difficult to get this sea change. So I said at the beginning we wanted to find a unity theory, and one that would unite consciousness and what's at the very large, all the forces of physics, by the way, I'm saying are the actual, the light that comes through the black hole. As you see it at different levels, it forms the gravity and the electromagnetic forces at the different levels of reality. So, you know, something that unites the forces of physics and, you know, brings us together with the Earth's weather patterns, with volcanoes, with, you know, with our consciousness itself and the black holes out in space and the stars and the planets. Well, you know, this is what I'm putting forward as something that we can go ahead in the 21st century as a new theory that unites everything in the physical with consciousness and beyond. Okay, so I've got a bit of another surprise for you, and so I've been making with my partner a movie to do with punk science. It's coming soon. Would you like to see the trailer? Yeah, okay. Can we have the sound as well, please? Oops. We are saying the universe works differently to how we previously thought. We're saying that consciousness is at the heart of the universe, and we don't need permission. This is in your face. This is something that is breaking through the old paradigm, and that's really the spirit of punk science. Oh, I don't know what's happened to the sound.
I mean, I can't believe it that physicists would actually entertain such a ludicrous speculation.
Big Bang did not happen. Science is shifting now. East and West are kind of coming together.
The new ideas are actually coming outside of academia. Oh,
Black holes.
Black holes. Black holes. Black holes are actually creative. They're actually the creative sources of the universe.
Black holes play a fundamental role in the universe on all scales, from the very largest to the very small.
Black holes are absolutely fascinating.
It's the breathing system of the whole of the multiverse, and without black holes there is nothing.
It's a paradigm which understands consciousness.
Consciousness is an actual something.
Consciousness is recognized as the primary being.
I don't know
But this
what's
has
going
huge
on.
implications for science.
And I think that the implications really are vast.
All that we call reality is consciousness.
So, oh, that's a shame. So, well, it would have been nice to have all the sound, but thank you very much. Thank you. If you want to find out more about the movie, it's punksciencemovie.com. So just have a look at that. So thank you very much. Thank you. Well, thank you. Thank you.
Not only, am I on? You are not only beautiful, you are the smartest lady I have seen. Little punk science woman. Wow. Brilliant. Just a brilliant, brilliant. Black holes and punk science. I love it. Wonderful. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.